Asiem Nasieya, Anta Cecilia Point, Talitanatwa Musqueam, Ami Tsepquequilam. I said, my name's Cecilia Point. I'm from the Musqueam First Nation, and I want to welcome everyone here to my territory this evening. And I want to especially thank the hosts of Late Night with Savages for being huge supporters of Musqueam for so many years. We met when Musqueam was having a stand at our ancestral graveyard, which was being destroyed by developers. And the crew here came down and interviewed us and stood with us and shared meals with us and songs. And I'm forever grateful to them for that. So I want to call on my ancestors this evening to give us the right thoughts and words to share with all of you. And I'm going to call on my ancestors not only here from Musqueam and Squamish and from South America. I'm also part Mapuche, and my late mother was from Ireland. So I want to invite my mother here tonight to send Irish blessings as well. So I always tell people, my ancestors tell me what to say, but every now and again a leprechaun gets in there and messes me up a little bit. So I want to welcome you with my great Uncle Dominic's song, our paddle song, Osiem.
This is Late Night with Savages, and I have special guest Cecilia Point, who is from the Musqueam Reservation, but also has Irish blood in her. Wow, this is amazing. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you, Cecilia.
And to you.
Yeah, I'm an O'Sullivan. I got the O going on, just like you in many ways. So what's it like to have mixed blood and this time and in our world?
Well, it's interesting because I work for Indigenous tourism, so I meet Indigenous people from all over the world, people who were Indigenous to those lands. And it's interesting the similarities between the Irish people and the First Nations people here. The same thing was done to them with the boarding schools and not being allowed to speak their language. And it's funny how many similarities there are. My mom said when she met my dad, she said to him, these people are very Irish because, we have millions of kids, we sing lots of songs, we love to laugh, we don't like you to get too big of a head on your shoulders. And, so we're a good mix, and I often come across mixed Irish and First Nations people. So, but currently we kind of are in the same kind of fight because, as you know, in Britain is breaking away from the European Union, and most of my family is from Northern Ireland, and they're sort of considered British by the government right now, and they want to return to Ireland. So yeah, it's really interesting.
So before the rally and the roadblock to protect the ancestral lands of the Musqueam, were you identifying more with your Irish identity than your Musqueam self, or what was going on?
No, because my Irish family is not here.
Okay.
so my
there's a disconnect.
There was a disconnect, and all of my family is here, like my aunts, my granny, yeah.
So mostly you've just been identifying as Musqueam.
Yes.
Right, and drawing some of the lines between your Irish ancestry and Musqueam ancestry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And I just love the fact that, that you took a stand during, what was that, 13 years ago, it seems.
It was in 2012. It was a long time ago. Yeah, it is hard to believe.
And what was happening is that the Musqueam people had put themselves on a position to blockade the Arthur Lang Bridge.
Yeah.
And this went on for over 6 months.
Yeah, 200 days.
But it really pulled the community together.
It really did. And at that time, it introduced us to all of the community around Vancouver, especially, folks like yourself and people coming from the downtown east side, because a lot of people don't even know that the Musqueam Reserve is there.
That's right.
It's very small, very insular.
It puts you on the map.
It does. It did. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say that people never leave the reserve, but there's a lot of people who don't.
I'll say it for you.
but so we were very insular, and as far as coming out and having a protest, that would have been unheard of. You know what I mean? Yeah. There would have been 1 or 2 times when there was issues with fishing and of course Shaughnessy Golf Course, but those would have been 1 day, events and something. Even my great uncle Dominic, whose song I sang today, he went out and took a stand one time by himself because the provincial government wanted to put, they had an idea that they were going to put totem poles all up and down this highway, and he said, well, they can't put one here because Musqueam people don't have totem poles, and I'm going to go down there and do a war dance, and he did. That was 1950s sometime. He went down there by himself to the ferry terminal.
Just after a prohibition of our culture, because wow.
So for us, it was the first time for us having a huge event like that.
Yeah.
My elders asked me completely out of the blue, literally out of the blue, to come and be the media spokesperson for the event. I had never done anything like that before.
Where were you working when they asked you that?
I was working for Indigenous Tourism BC at the time. Oh no, pardon me. I was working for Tourism BC at the time. And I ended up having to leave my job because of being at the site, for 200 days.
Because you're a troublemaker.
Yeah,
and it was
that
a
too.
conflict of interest, right?
It was.
That was a big step for you to make and a big sacrifice, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And you were just saying before I cut you off, this was the beginning for you.
It was.
Of becoming a protector of the land.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, because before that, I'm a mom with kids. I had a few years previous to that recovered like from alcohol and drugs myself. And so I was like busy going back to school, getting my grade 12, like starting to take some college courses, like busy, right? Because, as you know, there's been activism in Vancouver for so many years, but every time someone said, hey, can you come and join us? No, I'm quite busy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have time to do that. And so at this particular time, when my ancestors and my elders called me, because they literally called me in my head as well.
Yeah.
You have to go. You just have to go.
It's like the youth said to me the other day when I was over on Commercial and Clark from the Braided Warriors Society. They said on my live stream, when the youth come a-calling, you come. That's it, period.
Yeah.
No
when our children are
negotiating.
out screaming in the streets, we have to support them, yes. My niece Zoe is one of the Braided Warriors, yeah.
Oh, is
from
she?
Musqueam, yes.
Yeah, they've made some amazing movements. And I find it really interesting that you're like the director of
Finance.
But in tourism again.
Yeah.
And yet you still find the time to walk with the women. During the Missing and Murdered Women's March, I witnessed you over the last 10 or 20 years walking and leading the march on February the 14th. This year, something really significant happened for you. Rita Blind has been carrying a bundle for the Missing and Murdered Women's Coalition, and she handed this bundle over to you this year. And you will be carrying this bundle and leading the Missing and Murdered Women's March next year, being the 22nd or the...
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
A long time.
I believe it's the 23rd March.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a big responsibility.
It's a huge responsibility. And I think it's great that she thought of me like being a local person because I know the three nations have come out, often Carlene is there or Ta'a or, Carla George and Deborah Baker from Squamish. So we've come out, all of us, I have to say, from the host nations. Because it's in our territory and we also have relatives who have gone missing. But I think it will be amazing to start leading some of the cultural activities because, as you know, we have different cultural activities. Like, for example, smudging isn't from here. We do more with cedar brushing and water and so we'll be bringing more of that into bringing our medicines and more of that into the ceremonies.
Making it more appropriate to the land and the environment that we are proceeding from. Yeah,
or just sharing more, like emphasizing more. Yeah,
sure. I think that's really important because of the 60 scoop in foster care. A lot of us are searching for thyself. Yes. And it's important to be clear about what is Cree, what is Ojibwe, what is Blackfoot,
100%.
What is Inuit, and what is West Coast and Salish. It's all important. Thank you for doing that and making that part of the ceremony. I noticed that you've gone virtual. Yeah. That's one of the things that I've been wondering about. Co-op Radio had shut down our station on March of last year. I have been producing programming from my living room and have gone out and done various live streams.
Yes.
And that's how COVID-19 has changed my life as a broadcaster. How has this affected the tourist industry?
It's been a disaster.
Really?
Quite frankly, yeah.
And
you can notice just from never mind Indigenous tourism, the local tourism is suffering. I was just sharing with those waiting downstairs. I work near Gastown and it's completely empty. Completely empty. Galleries are closing, restaurants are closing. So for our Indigenous tourism operators, a big market was Europe. Germans, the French really like Eastern Canada, and the Northern Lights, attract a huge Asian clientele. So a lot of our cultural businesses are,
taking a dive.
Very much so. And so we sort of wondered what we were going to do last year to help them, because a lot of the programs the government's been rolling out don't always work for First Nations people because we don't have a lot of our own capital, our own assets. So we gave grants to businesses this year, like the government flowed $16 million through us to give $25,000 grants to Indigenous tourism businesses across Canada. But still, that's just going to get them over, like that probably will get them through one season. Yeah. So hopefully this season it will come back. And there's all kinds of entrepreneurs, like individual entrepreneurs, like I shared with you, Candace Campo's business. She gives tours of Stanley Park, Indigenous tours, and like that's the difference. So it's us telling our own stories in our own land, and you know, it's never going to be Disneyfied. And sometimes we're telling really hard truths. There's a gentleman named Mike. Can't remember his name. Business name is Seawolf Adventures. Mike Willie. Yeah. He gives a very heart-wrenching tour about residential schools, and like the visitors are learning the truth. You know, they're not just driving through Stanley Park and seeing totem poles and taking pictures. They're learning the truth about us. And there's also fun. Like you can go up north and build an igloo with your own hands, you know? Yeah. You can sleep in a longhouse with the Mohawks in Wendake, Quebec. So, and we also have, it seems to me, higher safety measures, because I was hearing a story from the Northern Labrador, giving a tour where there's wildlife, bears in particular. When the Sierra Club brought tourists out there, they actually were attacked and some of them were eaten by bears. But the Indigenous tour operators, you know, they have guys, you know, standing at point, like they know how to handle the land out there. So
and they know how to handle themselves.
Exactly. So Indigenous tourism, for that reason, was hugely booming, and you know, people coming to visit Canada wanted to learn about us. So it was great. So I really hope we'll be coming back. We tried to have a campaign this year to have people to visit us at home, like other Canadians to come and visit us at home, but it's not, they're not as, they haven't taken up as much as visitors coming to see us. And as you know, a lot of communities are closed, so they can't open for the tourists anyway. So so a lot of it has switched to more outdoor guiding rather than you know, indoor museums, and you know, there's a lot of hotels that are owned by Indigenous people as well. But it's two problems.
And
one,
casinos.
Yeah, and
Bingo
casinos,
balls.
and all the casinos are closed too.
Yeah.
So we're really hoping it'll come back.
So it's like we're winning, but we're losing.
Yeah.
All at the same time, and everybody is put on hold.
Yeah.
While industry is booming,
That's
like
right.
corporate business is booming,
Yeah.
development outside of the small business is booming and carrying on with life as usual, as if they are the essential of all essentials. Yes. So that must be a really hard pill to swallow. What kind of adjustments are you making within the industry? I saw something virtual.
Yes, you're right.
Earlier.
So there is virtual offerings happening now, but obviously you can't make as much revenue off of virtual offerings. But right now there's a virtual push as a campaign to go out and you know, here's a little teaser, and maybe you'll want to come and join us someday. So yeah, and it is, I think some places are charging for that, and there used to be like huge travel shows as well. Like, so that's what Indigenous Tourism Canada, we would take the operators to the travel shows, like in Beijing and Germany and so on, and so they could meet, you know, and we helped them do that. So so a lot of that has gone virtual, and that's what a lot of those virtual campaigns are for. But, you know, I have to say, I love working in this industry. It's fun, and I work in it mostly because it's a non-resource-based industry, and it's sustaining our own people. And you want to go up to Squamish-Lilwat Cultural Center and see how proud the youth are, sharing their own stories and making their own regalia. Like, it's really, to me, helping the resurgence of our culture along.
Definitely, and very important. You don't know this about me, Cecilia, and neither do my listeners. I'll take a few minutes to tell you. I was adopted when I was 5 or 6, 7 years old. But I was born in Kincoom Inlet. Then I was fostered out in Alert Bay. Then I went to a residential school for a couple of years. But when I was in foster home, my grandparents were the ones that actually had me in foster care. So they took a real invested interest in me.
Oh.
Well, there used to be a cruise ship that would travel in, and it would leave Pacific Palisades, and it would go all the way up the coast, stop off in Wrangell, Alaska, Ketchikan, Skagway,
Yes.
Juneau, come back to Prince Rupert, and then it would stop off in little old Alert Bay, right?
Yep.
And they would dock the ship, and when they began to stop in Alert Bay, there became a revitalization of pride and language and culture, because up until then, it was outlawed. So people,
right.
even though the outlaw had lifted by 1952,
Yeah.
they were still practicing underground. There was a lot of shame attached to the ceremonies. But when the ship would come in, it gave the people of Alert Bay an opportunity to dance.
Yes.
For the people on the cruise ship. And they were common dances that the children were taught, and they would come out in their full regalia, and they would dance, and they would get money for every dance that they danced. And that is what revitalized the language and culture and maintained the language and culture in Alert Bay.
And is that when Umista Cultural Center was born?
Yeah, the Umista Society came up in the next 10 years after that.
Oh, wow.
But I used to travel back and forth on a cruise ship back to Alert Bay.
Oh.
That's how I was able to keep my culture going and alive, even though I was adopted. Is because my adopted mom had close ties to the people in Alert Bay. Oh, wow. They adopted her even though she was Australian. And then she got adopted by the Tsimshians and the Tlinkits.
Wow.
So she's been adopted by 3 tribes. She is more Indian, more savage than I will ever be. And this was her blanket.
Oh, wow.
This was made by Lily Speck. And my adopted mom has danced this blanket more than I have. I've never danced in this blanket.
No. Why not?
And I'm 56. Well, because I haven't always been comfortable in my skin, and now I live in the city. Have very little access to culture. We used to go to the Friendship Center, but now because of COVID, it's nearly non-existent. And so what we're facing now as a people is having to adjust to going virtual with our ceremonies, with our dances. If we want to keep it alive. We are going to have to do that, and it's going to have to be a new wave of elders that basically is going to recognize this and make it happen.
Yeah, you're right.
That's my rant for today.
Okay, that was a good one.
Yeah, you too. I hope that you were able to say everything that you wanted to, and that we get to meet again and dance and sing and have some green eggs and ham.
Well, many haichkas again to you, again, for all the support you gave Musqueam all the years, and for interviewing my nephew V on his journey. I really warmed my heart to see you doing that. So proud of him.
Yeah, I'm following him.
Awesome.
Stalking him, in fact.
Okay.
Gaelic has Cecilia Point on Co-op Radio, CJSF, CITR, and Red Gate TV.